Hi guys, welcome to the channel N2D. So, in the last video, we just had a discussion about linear programming problems using a graphical method. So, to have a quick recap, linear programming problems are used in manufacturing industries when they have multiple number of products in which they try to find out what number of products that the combination of what number of products that they need to manufacture so that they may attain a maximum profit or they may attain a minimum cost. Okay, so this is a use of a linear programming problem. In the last video we just did with a graphical method. In today's video we are going to use simplex method and we are going to find out how much profit that we will attain based on how many number of products that we are going to manufacture. Okay, so in this particular simplex method, we can only solve when the problem is maximum z. So that means we can find out only your maximum profits. Okay, directly in your simplex method. You may have a question. If we want to find out the minimum cost, okay, so that is also possible, but for that we have to make a small change. Say for example, if your question is going like this: minimum z, which is equals to 22x1 plus 30x2. Okay, if the question is like this, now I want to find out the minimum z. Okay, so in this case, what you have to do is you have to convert that into a maximum z star. Okay, so max z star, which is equals to, you have to multiply the entire objective function with minus, so that it is going to be minus 22x1 minus 30x2. Okay, so this is going to be your new objective function. Based on this new objective function only you can able to solve it by using your simplex method. Okay, so this is when we are having a minimum z case. Okay, so now in the question we have maximum z, so directly we can go with maximum z. So the maximum z objective function is 22x1 plus 30x2 plus 25x3, and we have three constraints. So the first constraint is 2x1 plus 2x2 less than or equal to 100, and the second constraint is 2x1 plus x2 plus x3, which is less than or equal to 100, and third is x1 plus 2x2 plus 0x3 less than or equal to 100. So that means we have three different variables. Okay, so x1, x2 and x3. So we have to work on three different variables in order to find out the maximum profit. So if I go with x1, the profit is 22. If I go with x2, the profit is 30. If I go with x3, the profit is 25. So I need to find out how much of x1 and how much of x2 and how much of x3, so that my profit is going to be the maximum. Okay, sometimes you may want to go for only x1 and x2, or sometimes you have the combination of x2 and x3 alone, so it depends. Okay, so we will solve it by using your simplex method. So in simplex method, the first thing is you have to rewrite the inequalities. Okay, so inequalities of the constraints has to be rewritten. Okay, so that is from your canonical form. This is your canonical form. From that you have to convert into your standard form. Okay, in order to do that you have to introduce something called as slack variable. Okay, so slack variable is what you need to introduce. Okay, so the slack variable is going to be represented as s. Okay, and the first variable, if you introduce one slack, it is going to be s1, and the second time when you are introducing a slack, that is going to be s2 and so on. Okay, so here we have three different constraints. So first let us take the first constraint. So first constraint is 2x1 plus 2x2. Okay, so here x3 is 0 because we have x3, so we'll just consider x3 as 0. So this is for your understanding. Okay, so x3 is 0, and to convert this inequalities you have to add something called as slack. So first time we are introducing slack, so this is going to be s1. Okay, so then this inequality, that is less than or equal to, will become equal. Okay, equal to 100. So this is your first equation. So second constraint is 2x1 plus x2 plus x3. Okay, and in order to make this inequalities, then we have to introduce something called as slack. In the first equation, you introduce slack as s1. So now you have to introduce the slack as s2. Okay, so which is equals to 0. And third equation, it is going to be x1 plus 2x2 plus 0 x3. Okay, so here again, in order to change the inequalities, you have to introduce a slack. So we have already introduced s1 and s2. So now it is, you have to introduce s3, so which is equals to 0 again. Okay, so this is where you have converted from your canonical form to your standard form. Okay, so now we have to write our new objective function. Okay, so new objective function. Okay, so in your new objective function, the first thing is you will be having maximum z, which is equals to 22 x1 plus 30 x2 plus 25 x3. Okay, so where you have to introduce the slack and their values are going to be 0 here. Okay, so we have introduced three slack variables and those values we have to give it as 0. So 0 s1 plus 0 s2 plus 0 s3. Okay, so this is going to be our new objective function. Okay, so once we are done with your new objective function, the next thing is we have to bring it to the initial table. Okay, so in the initial table, this is represented as Cj. Okay, so this is represented as Cj. You have table which is Cb, Yb and Xb, X1, X2 and X3. Why X1 and X2, X3 is, in the constraint we have three variables, that is why X1, X2 and X3, and we have introduced three slack variables, that is why S1, S2 and S3. Okay, so in the Cj values, what you need to do is you have to write the values from your objective function. Okay, so from your objective function, the values are 22, 30 is your x2 and 25 is your x3, and s1 value is 0, s2 value is 0 and s3 value also 0. Okay, and the next one is when you have introduced slack. Okay, so your y values are going to be your slack variables. Okay, what are the slack variables we introduce is s1, s2 and s3. So three slack variables we introduce, that is going to be your yb, and cb is at the initial table, it is going to be 0. Okay, in the initial table in simplex method, the cb value is going to be 0. Okay, the next thing is we have to take the values from the constraints. Okay, so first constraint, x1 is 2, x2 is 2, x3 is 0, s1 is 1 and we don't have s2 in that equation as well as s3 in that particular equation, so it is going to be 0. And after equal to, it is 100, that is going to be your xb value. And the next one is second equation. So second equation, the value is 2 for x1, 1 for x2 and 1 for x3, and we don't have s1 in that equation, so 0. S2 we have it, so it is going to be 1. S3 we don't have, so it is going to be 0. And the next one is after equal to, it is 100, so it is going to be 100 in your xb. So now we will do it for the third equation, which is 1, 2, 0 and s1 is 0, s2 is 0, s3 is going to be 1, and after equal to, it is going to be 100. Okay, so now this is our initial table. Okay, so in the initial table we have certain formulas to be followed. Okay, so in order to calculate your zj minus cj. Okay, so here we have a formula. So the formula is summation of CB into XB. Okay, so you have to multiply CB into XB. Okay, so this and this you have to multiply 0 and 100, 0 and 100. So this is what you have to multiply in order to find out this particular value. Okay, and in order to find out these values, you have a formula which is going to be summation of Aij into CB minus CJ. Okay, so CJ is on the top, these values are CJ, and CB is already you have it, this is your 0, and CIJ values are nothing but these are your CIJ values. Okay, so these are your CIJ values 0 into 2 and 0 into 2 again, 0 into 1. Okay, so you have to multiply these and you have to subtract with CJ value. Okay, so this is going to be the formula. Okay, so these two formulas we have to keep it in our mind, and when you multiply this, 0 into 100 is 0, 0 into 100 is 0, 0 into 100 is 0, summation of CB into XB is going to be 0, and this is going to be minus 22, and this is minus 30, minus 25, 0, 0 and 0. Okay, so the next step is you have to find out the most negative value. Okay, so you have to find out from this portion to this portion, you have to find out the most negative value. Okay, so most negative value, so the most negative value is 30. Okay, so what you need to do is you have to select this particular column. Okay, so where you have the most negative value, so you have to select this particular column. Okay, the next thing is you have to take this XP value, sorry, selected column value, which has to be like used to divide XP values. Okay, so XP value is 100. Okay, we'll write the XP values here. So every XP is 100, and the selected column value here is 2, and this is 1, and this is 2. So when you divide, this is going to be 50, and this is going to be 100, and this is going to be 50. Okay, so now you have to choose the most, sorry, uh, we have to find out the least positive value. Okay, so in this you have to find out the least positive value. Okay, so least positive value is 50. We have it at two places. So arbitrarily you can choose anything. If I want to choose this, I can do it, or if I want to choose this, I can do it. I'll just go with this 50. So I have to select this particular row. Okay, I have to select this particular row. Okay, so now this is going to be the pivot value. Okay, so the intersection of pivot row and pivot column is going to be your pivot value. So this is your pivot row, and this is going to be your pivot column. Okay, the intersection point is what we call it as pivot value. Okay, so now you have to see where this pivot value is there. Okay, so it is in x2. Okay, your pivot value is in x2, and in the row it is corresponding to s3. Okay, so that means x2 is replacing S3. Okay, so X2 is replacing S3 in the next iteration. Okay, so in the next iteration, X2 is replacing S3. Once we are done with the initial table, we will be moving on to the iteration number 1. So in the initial table, as I said, it is X2 is replacing S3. That means in the place of S3 in the next iteration, it will become x2. Okay, so x2 will be here, and what is the Cj value? The Cj value of x2 is 30, so that 30 will be over your Cb value. Okay, so that is what x2 is replacing S3. Okay, the next thing is we will be writing the Cj values, same values from the previous table. These are your Cj values, which is 22, sorry, this is 22, 30, 25, 0, 0 and 0. Okay, and the S1 and S2 value remains the same. It is S1 and S2. It is going to be 0 and 0 over here. Okay, so the remaining things we have to go with a procedure. Okay, what we need to do is we want to make this pivot value as 1 in this particular table. The new iteration, we want to make this pivot value as 1. So how can we make this pivot value as 1? Is you can divide by the same number, so that you will get, or you will make this 2 as 1. Okay, so here your pivot value is 2, divide that by 2. So you have to divide the entire equation by 2. So this entire equation you have to divide by 2, so that you will make this pivot value as 1. Okay, so 100 divided by 2 is 50, and 1 divided by 2, let us keep it as 1 by 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 0 divided by 2 is 0, and again 0 divided by 2 is 0, and again 0 divided by 2 is 0, and 1 by 2 is, we will keep it as 1 by 2. Okay, so we made this pivot value as 1. The next step is by using this pivot value 1. Okay, by using this pivot value 1, okay, we need to make this value as 0 and this value as 0. Okay, I'll just tell again, by using this pivot value in the new iteration, the pivot value 1, you have to make this 1 as 0 and this 2 as 0. Okay, so how are we going to do that is by just simply framing an equation. Okay, so here we will consider this particular value as this particular line as y. Okay, that is this one as y. Okay, and in this we will consider it as x. Okay, so this we will consider it as x. So what we want to make it as 0, that we are considering it as x, and from the pivot value we are considering it as y. Okay, so now let us draw a equation x minus y. Okay, so this is a simple trick I'm just telling you. You just use x minus y. Okay, so first let us see, this is x is 1 and 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay, so we can leave this same equation x minus y, because x is 1, x is 1 and y is also 1, so that 1 minus 1 equals to 0. So you can use the same equation for the entire second row. Okay, for the entire second row you can use this particular equation x minus y. Okay, so now we have to find out like how to make this 2 as 0. So now the x value is 2 and the y value is 1. So 2 minus 1 is not 0, it is going to be 1. So what we can do is we can multiply this y with 2. Okay, so now what will happen? 2 minus 2 into 1 is 2. So 2 minus 2 equals to 0. Okay, so now our equation is going to be x minus 2y for the first equation. Okay, so we will be using this formula x minus 2y for the first equation. Okay, so now we can apply that. Okay, so here what is your x? The x is 100. Okay, this is your y. So what is the first equation? X minus 2y. Okay, so this you have to multiply with 2. Okay, so 100 minus 2y, which is equals to 0. That is 100 minus 2 into 50, which is 100. So it is going to be 0. And for the next things, it is going to be 2, and here it is, you have to multiply with 2 into half. So it is going to be 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1, and here it is going to be 0. That is 2 minus 2 into 1, which is 0. Okay, so sorry, 2, so 2 minus 2 is 0, and 0 minus 0 is 0, and 1 minus 0 is 1, and 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 2 into 1 by 2 is 1, so it is going to be minus 1. Okay, so this is going to be the value. And if you try for the second equation, it is going to be 100 minus 50, which is going to be 50. And second one, 2, sorry, 2 minus half. So it is going to be 3 by 2, and this value is going to be 0, and 1 minus 0 is 0, 0 minus 0 is 0, 1 minus 0 is 1, and 0 minus half is minus half. Okay, so now we have filled up the second iteration. Okay, so this is the first iteration. So first iteration is done. So in the first iteration, now we need to find out zj minus cj. Okay, zj minus cj, you know the formula, cb into yb. So 0 into 0, 0, 0 into 50, 0, 30 into 50, which is going to be 1500. Okay, and the next it is going to be 30 into half, which is going to be 15. 15 minus 22, which is going to be minus 7, and the next one it is going to be 30 minus 30, which is going to be 0, and next one it is going to be, just wait, we may did something wrong. So this particular value will be 1. Okay, so this particular value is 1. Okay, so yeah, so now 0 into 0 is 0, 0 into 1, 0, and 30 into 0, 0. So finally this value is going to be minus 25, minus 25, and this is going to be 0, this is 0, and this will be also sorry, this will be 15. Okay, so these are your Cj minus Zj values. Okay, so now the next thing is you have to find out the most negative value. This is your most negative value. You have to select this particular column. Okay, and you have to divide this selected column with the xp values. So it is going to be 0 divided by 0, which is going to be 0, and the next one is 50 divided by 1, which is going to be 50, and this next one is 50 divided by 0, which is again going to be 0. Okay, so now you have to find out the least positive value. Okay, so here 0 is not a positive value, 0 is not a positive value here, so positive value is 50. So you have to select this particular column. Okay, so you have to select this particular column. So now your pivot value is 1, and the remaining two column values are 0. Okay, so in the next iteration what we should do is we have to make this pivot value as 1, but it is already 1, so you need not to do anything, and this corresponding column values as 0, so that is already 0, so you need not to do anything much. Okay, so here we need to just find out which is replacing which one. Okay, so here x3 is replacing s2. Okay, so x3 is replacing s2. Okay, so we have to just do that alone. Okay, so in the next iteration what happens is x s2 will be replaced with x3. Okay, so instead of s2 it is going to be x3, and that corresponding x3 value is 25. Okay, you can see it here, the corresponding value is 25, so we'll be having 25 here. Okay, so we'll be having 25, and x2 is going to remains the same, so it is x2, and this is going to be 30. Okay, and this is going to be s1, and this is 0. Okay, and as I told you, other values are going to be remain the same because a pivot value is 1 and the other column values are 0, so it is going to be the same. So you just copy down the same table values. So 1 3 by 2, 1 by 2, 0 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 and 0 0 1 and 0. This is -1, -1 by 2, 1 by 2. Okay, so again we have to write the values of Cj. So Cj values are 22, 30 and 25. So Cj values are 22, 30 and 25. Okay, the other values are 0, 0 and 0. So now we need to find out Zj minus Cj values, the same formula. Okay, so now when you do this, the value is going to be 2750. Okay, if you multiply 0 into 0, 25 into 50, 30 into 50, so the value is 2750, and this is going to be somewhere 30.5, and this is going to be 0, and this would be also 0, and this is going to be 0, and this is going to be 25, and this is 2.5. Okay, so now in this values we couldn't see any negative values. When there is no negative values, we can see that the problem is reached the optimized level. Okay, so if it is not if it is having negative values, then it has not reached the optimum value, so you have to continue with the iteration. So here all the values are non-negative values, so that means that we have reached the optimum answer. Okay, so here what is the optimum answer is maximum z. Okay, so max z, so max z, which is equals to this particular value 2750, 2750. Okay, and what is the x1, x2 and x3 value? Okay, that we have to tell. Okay, so here x1 is not there because x1 is not even replaced, so s1 is still there. So we have only the values of x3 and x2. 2. Okay, so the values of x3 is 50 and x2 is also 50. So x1 is not supposed to be manufactured, so that we cannot reach a maximum profit. So x1 will be 0, x2 should be 50, and x3 also need to be 50. Okay, so in this case the maximum z is going to be 2750, whereas x1 we need not to manufacture x1, and x2 we have to manufacture 50, and x3 also we need to manufacture 50. Okay, so as I told you at the very first, like sometimes if we have multiple number of products, some products we need not to manufacture, so that uh, we can even achieve the highest profit. Okay, so in this case it is proven that we need not to manufacture x1, we manufacture x2 and x3, that is with the numbers of 50 and 50 we can reach the maximum profit based on the constraints. Okay, it is totally based on the constraints. Okay, so nothing else. Okay, so this is how you can optimize your answers. Okay, actually compared to your graphical method, your simplex method which will give you a little optimized answer. So this is your simplex method. So we'll meet you with another video, and we'll just see the next method, which is your begin method. Okay, until then, bye, see you.